Hey, what's up everyone? I hope you all are doing well. This is Jack from byprogrammers.com and welcome back to a brand new episode of Let's Code React Native. In the previous video, we have actually handled the light and dark theme for our profile tab over here. We have built the course listing screens, and also we have developed the filter model with a couple of cool animations. Now in this video, which is the third and final part of our online learning app, we will mainly be working on the course detail screen, which basically consists of the video section at the top, followed by the chapters tab, files tab, and lastly we have the discussions tab over here. Alright, now with that being said, let's get started. Alright, so the first thing we need to do here is that we need to create a new file or a new screen called the course detail screen. Alright, so go back to your source code. Oh, and before I forgot, make sure you copy and replace the assets folder as well as the constants folder from the starter template for this particular project, and we have included a link in the description below. Alright, so be sure to check that out. Okay, so in the screens folder, open up the course folder. Now over here we need to create a new file or a new screen called course details.js. Alright, now over here, same thing, we need to import from React, we need to import from React Native, and for now I'm gonna stick to view and text. Alright, now over here, we can then define the course detail functional component. So constant course details equals to arrow function, and we are going to return an empty view followed by the text component that renders course details like that. Also, don't forget we need to export default course details over here. Alright, now save it. Okay, so the next thing we need to do is to include the course details in the index.js file over here. Alright, so I'm gonna copy like this, paste it over here and change it to course details. Of course, we need to export it over here as well. Alright, save it. Now before we can navigate to the course detail screen, we need to first include it in the app.js file. Alright, so scroll to the top. Over here, I'm going to import the course detail screen. Next, within the stack navigator, we are going to have another stack.screen component called course details, like that. And for this, we don't need the options prop, and the reason being is because we don't need the shared element feature in the course detail screen. Alright, now save it. Okay, so what we need to do next is that whenever we open up, let's say, a category in the course listing screen, whenever we click on any of this horizontal course card component, we should be able to navigate to the course detail screen. Alright, so to do that, open up the course listing screen over here, look for the horizontal course card component. Alright, now whenever I click on this component, alright, so on press, it's going to be an arrow function, and over here I'm going to navigate to the course detail screen. And now that I'm here, I'm going to pass the selected course over as well, just like that. Next, we need to make sure we have included the onPress prop for the horizontal course card component. Alright, so over here, after the course prop, we are going to have another prop called onPress, and we will use it over here. So onPress equals to onPress, just like that. Save it. Go back to your course listing screen over here, save it as well. Now, whenever I click on any of this horizontal course card component, we should be able to navigate to the course detail screen. Perfect. Now you may have noticed that whenever we navigate to the course detail screen, the navigation animation isn't that smooth, like that. And the reason being is because whenever we navigate to the course detail screen, the shared element attribute is still being injected into the the navigation process, even though we didn't use it in the course detail screen. So to solve this issue, navigate to the course listing screen, scroll to the bottom. Over here, we need to add an if statement like that, and we will only sort of like inject or trigger this shared element attribute if and only if it's coming from dashboard, like that. Alright, now save it. Now if I were to navigate to the course detail screen, we should be able to get a smooth navigation, like that. Alright, so next we can then work on the course detail screen over here. So first thing first, we need to import a couple more components from React Native. We need view text image background. We need touchable opacity. We need animated, and also we need keyboard. And next we need to import from components. And for this, we need icon button, and also we need line divider. And lastly, we need to import from constants. And for this, we need colors, fonts, sizes, icons, constants, and dummy data, like that. Alright, next I'm going to get rid of this text component, and I'm going to give the container view a bit of styling over here, like that. So we need to make sure the flex is equals to 1 and the background color equals to colors.white. Alright, save it. Now for the course detail screen, the first section that we'll be working on is the video section over here. So what we are going to do is that we are going to first make use of the image background to sort of like, render the thumbnail, right? And after that, we have the play button in the middle. Next, we'll then work on the header section over here. And lastly, we will render the video itself, which is going to stream through a dummy URL after the play button has been clicked. Alright, so go back to the source code. For the course detail functional component, we need two more props. We need navigation, and also we need a route. Alright, now over here we are going to retrieve the selected course, which is over here, right? Now we need to, in the course detail screen, we need to retrieve the selected course, pass over from the course listing screen. So to do that, constant selected course equals to route.params, like that. Next, within the container view, we are going to render a new function called render video section, right? And this one is going to be the video section. Okay, and we are going to create the function over here. So function render video section, and we are going to return a container view with a bit of styling. Oops. Alright, now over here with a bit of styling. For the height, if the sizes.height is more than 800, then we are going to set the height to 220. If it's not, then it's going to be 200. Align item is going to be center. Justify content is going to be center as well. And the background color equals to colors.gray 90, like that. Alright, save it. Okay, cool. So we have the container in place. Now within the container view, we are going to render the thumbnail, right? The thumbnail for the video itself. So for this, we are going to make use of the image background component. So the source is going to be the thumbnail property from the selected course, right? So selected course, which is being passed over from the course listing screen. All right, so selected course dot thumbnail. Next, for the style, width is going to be 100%. Height is going to be 100% as well. Align item is going to be center. Justify content is going to be center. Alright, save it. Perfect. Next, we are going to render the play button, right? Now within the image background, we are going to render an icon button component, where the icon is going to be icons.play. Oops. Icon style is going to be width 25, height 25, and the tint color is going to be colors.white. Alright, now for the container style, width is going to be 55, height is going to be 55. Align item is going to be center. Justify content is going to be center as well. Alright. Margin top is going to be sizes.padding. Border radius is going to be 30. And lastly, for the background color is going to be primary. Alright, save it. Sweet. Alright, now that we have sort of like completed the container for the video section, next we'll be working on the header bar section over here. Alright, so go back to the source code. Now before the video section, we are going to render the header bar section like that. So same thing, for the header bar, we are going to render a new function called render header. And we are going to create this function over here. So function render header, and we are going to return a view with a bit of styling, right? So for this, the position is going to be absolute. Top, for the top property, if the sizes.height is more than 800, then it's going to be 40. If it's not, then it's going to be 20. Left is going to be 0, right is going to be 0, flex direction equals to row, padding horizontal equals to sizes.padding, and lastly the z-index property should be equals to 1, so that the header bar can be rendered on top of the video section over here. Alright, now within the container view, we are going to render another function called render header components, and we are going to create this function over here. So function render header components, and we are going to first return an empty fragment like this, like that. Now for the header component, we basically have three different things, which are the back button, followed by the shared button, and lastly we have the favorite button. Alright, so over here we have the back button, followed by the shared and favorite button, right? So for the back button, we are going to render a container view where the flex equals to 1, like that, and within this view, we are going to render an icon button component where the icon is going to be icons.back. The icon style is going to be width 25, height 25, and the tint color is going to be black. Alright, next for the container style, width is going to be 40, height is going to be 40 as well, align item is going to be center, justify content center, border radius will be 20, and lastly the background color is going to be white. And whenever I click on this button, whenever I click on the back button, I would like to navigate back to the previous screen, right? Okay, save it. Perfect, the back button is in place. Now whenever I click on the back button, I should be able to navigate back to the previous screen. Sweet. Next, for the share and favorite button over here, we are going to create a container view as well, where the flex direction should be equals to row, like that. Alright, now over here we need two icon button component, right? So the first one is going to be icons.media, where the icon style is going to be tint color white. For the container style, the width is going to be 50, height is going to be 50, align item is going to be center, justify content is going to be center as well. Alright, save it. Okay, cool, now the media icon is in place. Next, I'm going to copy and paste it over here and change the icon to favorite outline. Alright, save it. Perfect, so we have basically completed the header bar section over here. Alright, now for the video itself, we are going to make use of a library called React Native Video. Right, so scroll down. Over here, I'm going to copy this and I'm going to paste it in the terminal, like that. Alright, next I'm going to close the app. Okay. And then I'm going to cd into iOS and run pod install. Alright, once we have done that, we can then navigate back to the root folder and run npx react native run iOS, like that. Alright, now let me navigate to the course detail screen And over here at the top, we need to import from React Native Video, right? Which is the library that we have just installed. So we need to import video like that. Next, we need to create a state, basically for us to keep track if the video is being played. All right, so constant play video, set play video equals to react.useState, and the initial value is going to be false. Next, in the video section over here, whenever I click on the play button on press, here's going to be an arrow function, and I'm going to set the play video state to true. Alright, now after the image background component, if the play video state is equals to true, then we are going to render the video component. Alright, so for this, the source is going to be URI, and over here it's going to be dummy data dot sample video URL. Next, we are going to set the controls to true. This is so that we can have the media controls buttons like play, pause, full screen, and so on and so forth. Next, for the style, position is going to be absolute, top is going to be 0, left is going to be 0, bottom is going to be 0, and lastly the right is going to be 0, right? Oh, and one more thing, the background color should be equals to black. Alright, save it. Now whenever I click on the play icon button over here, we should be able to stream the sample video URL. Let's see. Perfect. Alright. Next, what I would like to do is that whenever the play video set is equals to true, which means the user has already clicked on the play button over here, I'm going to sort of like lower the position of the video container so that we have enough space, or we have enough rooms for the header bar. Okay, so scroll to the render header function over here. If the play video state is equals to true, then we are going to return a view with a bit of styling where the flex direction equals to row, padding horizontal equals to sizes.radius, padding bottom equals to sizes.base, height equals to 85, background color equals to colors.black, and the align item equals to flex n. Alright, now over here within the view, we are going to render the render header component, right? Okay, so over here, if the play video state equals to false, then we are going to return this. Alright, save it. Perfect. Now whenever I navigate back to the course detail screen, we can see that the render bar is actually being rendered on top of the video container. But once I click on the play button over here, we are going to sort of like lower down the position of the video container so that we have enough rooms for the header bar, like that. Sweet. Alright, so that's all for the video section over here. Next, we'll be working on the content section, right? So go back to your source code over here. After the video section, we are going to render the content section. So same thing, we are going to render a new function called render content, and we are going to create this function over here. So function render content, and we are going to return a container view with the flex equals to 1, like that. Alright, now for the content section, we have the tab section over here, followed by a line divider, and lastly we have the content itself. So in order to achieve this, we are going to make use of the animated.flatlist component. So go back to your source code. Over here within the content view container, we have the tab section, and over here we have a line divider, and after that we have the content itself, right? So for the tab, I'm going to simply render in I would say an empty view with the height of 60 and a background color of, I would say, maybe red. We will come back to the tab section later on, and for now we will be working on the content section. So for the line divider, I'm going to render the line divider component, alright, like that. And for the line style, the background color should be equals to colors.gray20, like that. Okay, so after the line divider, we have the content itself, right? So in order to work on the content, we need to first create two constants variables, right? So over here, after the play video state, we need constant flatlist ref equals to react.useRef. Next, we need the scrollX constant variable to keep track of the scrolling position, right? So scrollX equals to react.useRef, and the initial value is going to be new animated.value, and for this it's going to be 0.current, like that. Alright, now navigate back to the content section. Over here we are going to render animated.flatlist, like that, where the ref equals to flatlist ref. It's going to be horizontal, padding enabled, snap to alignment equals to center, snap to interval equals to sizes.width, deceleration rate equals to fast, keyboard dismiss mode equals to on drag, shows horizontal scroll indicator equals to false, data equals to constants, dot course details tabs. And for the key extractor, here it's going to be item followed by the arrow function, and it's going to be course detail tabs dash item dot id. And for the on scroll prop, here it's going to be animated dot event, native event, content offset, and we will get the X position and put it into the scrollX constants variable, right? And over here, it's going to be use native driver equals to false. Alright, and lastly for the render item prop, here we have item index followed by the arrow function, and we are going to return a container view, give it a bit of styling. Width is going to be sizes.width, like that. Alright, and over here, if the index, oops, sorry, a bit of typo. If the index equals to 0, then we are going to render a text component, and here it's going to be chapters. This is basically just for us to make sure our animated.flatlist is actually working. Alright, I'm going to change this later on. Okay, so next we have, if the index equals to 1, then the text component is going to be files. The first tab is going to be chapters, followed by files, and lastly we have discussions. Okay, same thing. If the index equals to 2, then we are going to render discussions. Again, this is just for us to make sure our flat list is actually working. Alright, so save it. Okay, so we have the tab section over here, which we are going to be working on shortly. And after that, we have the content itself. So here we have chapters, we have files, and lastly, we have discussions. Sweet. Alright, so we have sort of completed the content section for now. Next, we are going to revisit the tab section over here. Right, so go back to your source code, scroll to the tab section over here. Within the container view, we are going to render a custom component called tabs. Alright, so for this component, we are going to pass the scrollX over. Just like that. Now the reason why we need the scrollX property is so that we can, sort of like animate the tab indicator later on, okay? Alright, next we are going to create the tabs component over here, right before the course detail functional component. Right, so over here we have constant tabs equals to, we will be taking one prop for now, which is the scrollX property. After that, followed by the arrow function, and we are going to return something. Alright, so for the tabs component, we need two constants variables. The first one we need is the measure layout as our state. The reason why we need measure layout is so that we can understand the width and the X position of each of these tabs so that we can animate the tab indicator. Okay. Alright, so over here we have constant measure layout, set measure layout equals to react.useState, and the initial value is going to be an empty array. Next, we have the container ref, all right, equals to react.useRef. All right, now over here, we are going to return a container view. The ref is going to be container ref, and for the style, flex equals to 1 and the flex direction equals to row. Alright, now within the container view, we basically have two different sections. The first one is what we call the tab indicator, which is basically the line underneath the tab, which is this part over here, to indicate which tab you're in. Alright, after the tab indicator, we have the tabs itself. So for the tab section, we are going to make use of the map method to render the tabs. Alright, so over here we have course details tabs dot map. Same thing, we have item index followed by the arrow function, and over here we are going to return a touchable opacity where the key equals to tab dash index. For the style will be flex equals to 1, padding horizontal equals to 15, align item equals to center, justify content equals to center as well. And within the touchable opacity, we are going to render the text component, right? Okay, so here we have the text component and we are going to render the item.label. Oh, before I forgot, we need to populate the course details tab based on our constant file. Alright, so scroll to the top over here. We are going to declare a new variable called constant course details tabs, like that, equals to constants dot course details tabs. And over here we are going to make use of the map method. All right, here is going to be course detail tab followed by the arrow function. Oops. Now the reason why we need to make use of the map method to populate the course detail tabs is so that we can add in the reference property, ref property, right? So we have ref equals to react.create ref, like that. And I'm going to simply copy over all the other properties, just like that. Alright, now that we have the course detail tabs in place, now over here, don't forget we need to set the ref variable based on the property that we have just added in over here, right? The reason why we need this is so that we can, sort of like calculate the position or the length or the width of the tab indicator over here. Alright, so for the ref prop, it's going to be item.ref. Alright, save it. Okay, cool, so we have the tab section in place. Now for the text component, I'm going to give it a bit of styling, like that. Alright, the font is going to be H3, and for the font size, if the sizes.height is more than 800, then the font size is going to be 18. If it's not, then it's going to be 17. Alright, save it. Perfect. Now let me get rid of the background color over, let me see. Yep, over here, let me get rid of the red color. Save it. Alright. Okay, cool, so the tab buttons are in place. Okay, but before we work on the tab indicator over here, we need to first populate the major layout. And we can do that by making use of the ref property over here. Alright, so we need the use effect hook, so react.useEffect, like that. And over here, we will be listening to the container ref.current. In other words, if there is any changes on the container view, we are going to fire this particular use effect hook. Alright, so over here, we need to first declare an empty array called ml, like that. And next, we are going to make use of the for each method, loop through the course detail tabs. So course detail tabs dot for each. And over here, it's going to be course detail tab followed by the arrow function. And within each of these object, course detail tab, like that, we are going to get access to the ref property dot current. And from here, we can get access to the measure layout. Alright, so for the measure layout, the host component is going to be container ref dot current. And for the onSuccess callback function, we will be retrieving the X position, the Y position, width, and height, followed by the arrow function. Once we got the properties, we are going to push it into the ML array. So ml.push, like that, X, Y, width, and height. These are basically the properties that we need to animate the tap indicator over here. Alright, now after this, if the ml.length is equals to the coarse detail tabs.length, which means after we have gathered all the properties for these 3 tabs over here, we are going to set it into the measure layout state. So set measure layout, and we are going to set the ml over like that. Okay, so we have already populated the measure layout state. Next, we can then move on to the tab indicator over here. Alright, so if the measure layout.length is more than 0, which means I've already populated the measure layout, then we are going to render another custom component called tab indicator. Alright, and for this component, we need to pass the measure layout over. So measure layout equals to measure layout, and also we need to pass the scroll X over as well, like that. And now we need to create the tab indicator component over here right before the tabs component. So constant tab indicator equals to, for this component we need 2 props, which are measure layout and also scroll X. Alright, followed by the arrow function, and we are going to return an animated view. The reason being is because we would like to animate the tab indicator. Alright, so animated dot view, give it a bit of styling. Alright, the position is going to be absolute, bottom is going to be 0, height is going to be 4, width I'm going to set it to 100 for now, border radius will be sizes.radius, and the background color is going to be primary. Alright, save it. Perfect, so the tab indicator is in place over here. All we need to do is to animate the tab indicator based on the selected flat list, right? Or the selected tab content over here. Okay. To do so, we need to first declare the input range constants variable. So constant input range equals to coarse detail tabs dot map. We don't need the item, we only need the index, followed by the arrow function I multiplied by sizes dot width. Alright, now that we have the input range, next we can then sort of like calculate the tab indicator width. So constant tab indicator width equals to, we'll be making use of the scroll X dot interpolate. Here it's going to be input range, and next we have the output range. So for the output range, it's going to be measure layout dot map measure, followed by the arrow function measure dot width. We are basically pulling the width property from the measure layout that we calculated earlier over here and map it in accordance to the input range by using the interpolate method. Alright, so now we can then use the tab indicator width and replace it over here. Alright, and next we can then work on the translate X because we need to animate the position of the tab indicator as well. So constant translate X equals to scroll X, same thing, dot interpolate. And here it's going to be input range, and for the output range it's going to be measure layout dot map, but this time we are going to pull the X property like that. Alright, and over here we can make use of the transform property like that, and we will pass the translate X over. Alright, save it. Now whenever I scroll through the animated flat list over here, the tab indicator should be animated accordingly. Let's see. Perfect. Alright, so all that's left for the tab section is to make sure each of these tabs are clickable, and by clicking on these tabs, we should be able to navigate to different tab content. Alright, so to do that, go back to the coarse detail functional component. Over here, we need to declare a sort of like constant variable to handle the tab press action, right? So constant on tab press equals to, we are going to make use of the use callback hook. So react.use callback. Over here, we have tab index, followed by the arrow function. So whenever the user click on the tab, we are going to get access to the flat list ref dot current dot scroll to offset, and here it's going to be offset tab index multiplied by sizes dot width, like that. Alright, so all we need to do now is to pass the on tab press over to the tabs component over here. So on tab press equals to on tab press, and for the tabs component, we will be taking one more prop, which is the on tab press, which will be triggered over here, right? So whenever I click on the tab button on press arrow function, we are going to trigger the on tab press callback by passing the index over like that. Alright, save it. Now whenever I click on any of this tab button, the animated flat list over here should be animated accordingly as well, just like that. Sweet. Alright, so we have completed the video section, the header bar, as well as the tab section. Next, we are going to move on to the chapters tab content over here. So go back to your source code. Within the course folder, we are going to create another folder called course tabs. Alright, now over here, we are going to create a new file called course chapters. Alright, same thing, we need to import from React, we need to import from React Native, and for this we need view, we need scroll view, we need text, we need image, and also we need flat list. Next, we need to import from components, and for this we need icon label, we need text button, we need horizontal course card, and also we need line divider. Alright, and after that we need to import from constants, and for this we need colors, we need fonts, we need sizes, we need images, icons, and also dummy data. Alright, and after this we can then create the course chapters functional component. So constant course chapters equals to, and for this I won't be taking any prop for now, followed by the arrow function, and we are going to return something. Don't forget, we need to export default course chapters. Now to make sure this is working, I'm going to return or to render a container view with the text component that renders course chapters. Alright, save it. Now go back to the course detail screen, scroll to the top. Over here, we are going to import from course tabs, course chapters. Over here is going to be course chapters. Right now, for the animated.flatlist, instead of returning the text component for chapters tab, we are going to return, or we are going to render the course chapters component. Alright, save it. Perfect. Alright, cool. Now go back to the course chapters screen. Now over here we have the header section followed by a line divider. We have the chapters section, and lastly we have the popular courses. And of course we are going to wrap this whole thing within the scroll view component, right? So go back to your source code. I'm going to get rid of this. I'm going to change it to scroll view component. Now over here we have the header, we have line divider, we have chapters, and lastly we have the popular courses. Alright, so the first thing we'll be working on is the header section. So to do that, we need to render a new function called render header. Alright, and we are going to create this function over here, function render header, and we are going to return something. Alright, so for the header section, we have the title over here, followed by the students and duration section, and lastly we have the, I would say, instructor section. Alright, so go back to your source code. For this, we are going to render a container view, give it a bit of styling. Margin top is going to be sizes.padding, and padding horizontal is going to be sizes.padding as well. Alright, now within the container view, we have the title section, followed by the students and duration section, right? Which is this part over here. This part over here. And after that, we have the instructor section. So for the title, we are going to render a text component, and over here it's going to be dummy data dot course details dot title, right? So for this, the font will be H2. Alright, save it. Next, for the students and duration section, we are going to render a container view as well with a bit of styling. flex direction is going to be row, and row, and margin top is going to be sizes.base. Alright, now over here we are going to first render a text component for the students, right? The number of students. So here we are going to render dummy data dot course details dot number of students. Give it a bit of styling. The color is going to be gray 30, and the font will be body 4, like that. Save it. Alright, and lastly we have the duration, right? So to do that we need the icon label. The icon is going to be icons.time. Label is going to be dummy data dot course details dot duration. Container style, margin left is going to be sizes dot radius. Icon style, the width will be 15 and the height will be 15 as well. And lastly, for the label style, the font will be body 4, just like that. Alright, save it. Perfect. And lastly, we have the instructor section. So for this we need another container view with a bit of styling, right? Flex direction equals to row. Margin top is going to be sizes.radius. Align item equals to center. Now within the instructor section, we have the profile pic on the left, followed by the name and title, and lastly we have the text button, right? So over here we have the profile photo, we have the name and title, and lastly we have the text button. So for the profile photo, we are going to render an image component, right? So we have an image component over here. The source will be images.profile. Style will be width 50, height 50, and the border radius is going to be 25. Alright, save it. Okay, that's all for the profile photo. Next, for the name and title section, we are going to render another container view with a bit of styling as well. Flex will be 1, margin left is going to be sizes.base, and justify content is going to be center. Right, so over here we need two text components, one for the name and the other one for the title, right? So the first text component we are going to render dummy data dot course details dot instructor dot name. Right, give it a bit of styling. The font will be H3 and the font size I'm going to override it to 18. And next, for the second text component, we are going to render dummy data dot course details dot instructor dot title. Right, give it a bit of styling as well. The font will be body 3. Alright, save it. Okay, cool. Now after the name and title section, we have the follow button, right? So over here we are going to make use of the text button, where the label is going to be follow and a plus icon like that, and the content container style width is going to be 80, height is going to be 35, and the border radius will be 20. Alright, and lastly for the label style, the font will be H3. Alright, save it. Perfect. Okay. Alright, so after the header section, next we are going to render a line divider over here. Okay, so we are going to render a line divider component where the line style height is going to be 1 and margin vertical is going to be sizes.radius. Alright, save it. Okay, cool. Next, for the chapters, we are going to render a new function called render chapter, like that. Alright, and we are going to create this function over here, function render chapter, and we are going to return a container view like that. And within the container view, we are going to make use of the map method to render the chapters over here. Okay, so we have dummy data dot course details dot videos dot map. Over here we have item index followed by the arrow function, and we are going to return another view, okay, where the key is going to be videos dash index. For the style, align item is going to be center, height is going to be 70, and for the background color, if it's currently being played, if the item that is playing equals to true, then we are going to have some sort of like a background color. If it's not, then it's going to be null, right? So if it's playing, then the background color is going to be colors.additional color 11. If it's not, then it's going to be null, like that. Alright, save it. Alright, we have the background color over here, which means it's working. Alright, cool. So we have the background color over here. Now within the view, we need another view, right, with a bit of styling. Flex direction equals to row, padding horizontal equals to sizes.padding, align item equals to center, and the height equals to 70. Alright, now over here we have the icon, right, followed by the title as well as the duration, and lastly we have the size and status, right? So over here we have the icon followed by the title and duration, and lastly we have the size and status, right? So for the icon, we are going to render an image component, where for the source, if the item is complete, then we are going to render icons.completed. If not, then I'm going to check if the item is currently playing. Then I'm going to render icons.play1. Else I'm going to render icons.locked, like that. Alright. So for the style, width is going to be 40 and the height is going to be 40 as well. Okay, save it. Perfect. Next, for the title and duration section, we are going to render another container view with a bit of styling, right? Where the flex equals to 1 and margin left is going to be sizes.radius. Alright, so over here, we are going to render two text components, right? One is for the title and the other one will be the duration. So for the first text component, it's going to be item.title, where the style font will be H3, right? Save it. Oops, I forgot the closing braces. Alright, so for the second text component over here, we are going to render item.duration. Give it a bit of styling as well, where the color is going to be gray 30 and the font will be body 4, like that. Alright, save it. Perfect. And lastly, we have the size and status section, right? So for this, we need another view where the flex direction should be equals to row, like that. And over here, we need to render the size followed by the status, right? So we have size followed by status. So for the size, we are going to render a text component. Over here, it's going to be item.size. Give it a bit of styling. Color is going to be gray 30 and the font will be body 4, like that. Alright, save it. And lastly, for the status, we are going to render an image component. So over here for the source, if the item is downloaded, like that, then we are going to render icons.completed, or else we are going to render icons.download, like that. Alright, so for the style, margin left is going to be sizes.base, width will be 25, height will be 25 as well, and for the tint color, if the item is locked, then the tint color will be colors.additional color 4, or else it will be null, which means there will be no tint color. Alright, so save it. Perfect. Alright. Okay, and lastly, we are going to render the progress bar over here. Okay, so alright, over here we are going to render the progress bar, So we are going to check if the item is currently playing, which means if the chapter is currently playing, then we are going to render an empty view like this with a bit of styling, where the position is going to be absolute, bottom is going to be 0, left is going to be 0, height is going to be 5, width is going to be item.progress, and the background color is going to be colors.primary. Alright, save it. Oops, the background color should be colors.primary and not primary tree. Save it. And let me change the property a little bit. So let me first navigate to the course detail and the dummy data section. Over here, course detail. Alright, for the second chapter, I would like to change the progress to, let's say, 60%. Save it. I might need to reload the app. Oh, yep, it's working over here. Alright, now navigate back to the course chapters component. And pretty much that's about it. We have just completed the chapters section. Next, we'll move on to the popular courses section. So go back to the source code, scroll down. After the chapter section, we are going to render another function called render popular courses, right? And we are going to create this function over here, function render popular courses, and we are going to return a view with a bit of styling, right? So style margin top is going to be sizes dot padding. Alright, so for the popular courses, the first thing we need to render is the section header over here, right? Then after that we have the popular courses list. Okay, so we have the section header first, and after that we have the popular courses list. So for the section header, we are going to render a container view with a bit of styling, right? So the flex direction equals to row, and the padding horizontal equals to sizes.padding. Now over here, we are going to render a text component. Here is going to be popular courses, and for the style, flex equals to 1, and the font will be H2. Alright, save it. Okay, so the section titles in place. After this, we have the what you call CO text button, right? So to do that, we need to render a text button component where the content container style width will be 80, border radius is going to be 30, and the background color is going to be primary, right? And for the label, it's going to be see all, just like that. All right, save it. Perfect. Next, for the popular courses list, we can actually make use of the horizontal course cut component that we have developed in the previous video, right? So go back to your source code. Over here, we are going to render a flat list where the data is going to be dummy data dot courses underscore list underscore 2. List key is going to be popular courses. Scroll enable is going to be false. Key extractor is going to be item followed by the arrow function. Over here, it's going to be popular courses dash item dot id. Next, the shows horizontal scroll indicator should be equals to false. Content container style, margin top is going to be sizes.radius, padding horizontal is going to be sizes.padding. Next, for the render item prop, item index followed by the arrow function, and we are going to return the horizontal course card custom component, right? So for this, we are going to pass the item over, or the course over, just like that. And for the container style, margin vertical is going to be sizes.padding, and margin top, if the index equals to 0, which means if it's the first item, then margin top is going to be sizes.radius. If it's not, then it's going to be sizes.padding. Alright, save it. Perfect, so we have successfully rendered the course list. All we need to do now is to work on the line divider in between. So to do that, after the render item prop, we are going to supply the item separator component, right? So for this, we have the arrow function, and we are going to return the line divider component, just like that. Save it. Perfect. Okay, so as you can see here, we have completed the chapters tab. Next, we are going to move on to the files tab. Alright, so same thing. In the course tabs folder, we are going to create a new file called course files. Alright, so over here we need to import from React, we need to import from React Native, we need view, text, image, and scroll view. Next, we need to import from constants, we need colors, font, sizes, dummy data, and icons. And lastly, we need to import from components, and for this we need icon button, like that. Alright, and after this we can then create the course file functional component. So constant course files followed by the arrow function, and we are going to return something. Don't forget, we need to export default course files. Alright, so for the course file tab content, we basically have two different sections. First of all, we have the student section over here, and followed by the files section. And of course, we are going to wrap these two sections in the scroll view component. Alright, so go back to your source code. Over here, we are going to return a scroll view like that. I'm going to give it a bit of styling. So content container style, padding is going to be sizes.padding. Alright, and over here we have two different sections, right? We have students, and also we have files. So for students, we are going to render a new function called render students, and I'm going to create the function over here. Function render students, and we are going to return a container view like that. So for the student section, the first thing we need to render is the section title, right? So over here we are going to render the title. Here it's going to be a text component that renders a student. Give it a bit of styling. The font is going to be H2, and I'm going to override the font size to 25. Alright, save it. Okay, the next thing we need to do is to make sure we have render the course files in the course detail screen. So scroll to the top over here. I'm going to copy and paste it, change it to course files, right? I'm gonna navigate to the flat list over here. If the index equals to 1, instead of rendering a text component, I'm going to render course files like that. Save it. Oops, a bit of typo. Like that. Alright, cool. So the section title is in place. Next, I'm going to render the students content over here. And if you were to take a look at the UI, if a particular course has more than 3 students, instead of rendering all the students at once in this particular screen, we are going to render the first 3 students followed by a view all button over here, right? So in order to achieve that, in the render students function, I'm going to first declare a students empty array. So let students equals to an empty array. And over here, I'm going to check if the dummy data dot course details dot students dot length is more than 3, which means if I have more than 3 students, then I am going to get the first 3 students from this array over here, right? So dummy data dot course details dot students dot slice, I am going to slice from index 0, and I'll be retrieving 3 students and assign it to the students array over here, like that. Okay, if I do not have more than 3 students, then I'm going to simply get all the students and assign it to the students array, like that. Alright, so after the title section, we have the student section, right? So for this, we need another container view with a bit of styling. Flex direction should be equals to row, margin top should be equals to sizes.radius, and align item equals to center. Alright, and over here we are going to make use of the map method to render the students, right? So we have students.map. Here it's going to be item index followed by the arrow function, and we are going to return another view. Here make sure we need to set the key like that. Students dash index. For the style, the margin left, if the index is more than 0, which means if it's not the first item, then the margin left is going to be sizes.radius, or else it's going to be 0, like that. Alright, and over here we are going to render the image component to render the student's profile. So source equals to item.thumbnail, and for the style, width is going to be 80 and height is going to be 80 as well. Alright, save it. Perfect. Now after the student section, over here we are going to render the view all text button if and only if we have more than 3 students, right? So over here, dummy data dot course details dot students dot length. If it's more than 3, then we are going to render a text component. Well, in fact, we are going to render a text button component like that. Alright, over here we are going to render the text button component where the label is equals to view all, right? So we have view all over here, and for the label style, the color is going to be primary and the font will be H3. Alright, save it. Oops, I think I need to get rid of the background color. No worries, over here like that. Background color, it's going to be null, and perhaps I'll give it a bit of margin left as well. So margin left equals to sizes.base. Perfect. Alright. Okay, so after the students section, next we'll be working on the files section. So to do that, go back to your source code. Over here we are going to render a new function called render files, right? And we are going to create this function over here, function render files, and we are going to return a container view with a bit of styling where the margin top is going to be sizes.padding. Alright, and over here within the container view, we are going to first render the files and then followed by the content itself, right? So we have the section title and followed by the files. So over here we are going to render a text component. Here it's going to be files. Give it some styling. The font should be equals to H2, and I would like to override the font size to 25. Save it. Okay. Next, for the files itself, we are going to make use of the map method to render each of these files over here. Alright. So here it's going to be dummy data dot course details dot files dot map item index followed by the arrow function, and we are going to return a container view where the key is equals to files dash index. For the style, flex direction should be equals to row, and margin top should be equals to sizes dot radius. Okay, now that we have the container view in place, for the files we are going to render the image followed by the file name, author, as well as date, and lastly we have an icon button over here. Alright, so go back to your source code. Over here we have the thumbnail, right? After that we have the name, author, and date, and lastly we have the menu button. right? So for the thumbnail, we are going to render an image component where the source is going to be item.thumbnail. Style width is going to be 80 and height is going to be 80 as well. Alright, save it. Perfect. Next, for the name, author, and date section, we are going to render another container view. Give it a bit of styling. Flex equals to 1 and margin left is going to be sizes.radius. Alright, so over here we are going to render 3 different text components. So the first text component is going to be item dot name. Give it some styling. The font is going to be H2. Alright, and over here the second text component we are going to render item.author. Give it some styling as well. The color is going to be colors.gray30 and the font will be body tree. Alright, and for the third and last text component we are going to render item.uploadDate. Same thing, give it some styling as well. The font should be equals to body4, like that. Oops. Alright, save it. Perfect. And lastly, for the menu button, we are going to render an icon button component, right? Where the icon equals to icons.menu. Icon style will be width 25, height 25, and thin color equals to colors.black. Okay, and for the container style, align item equals to center, justify content equals to center as well, and lastly for the border radius it's going to be 25, like that. Alright, save it. Perfect. Alright, so that's all for the Files tab. Next, we are going to move on to the Discussions tab. So same thing, in the Course tabs folder, we are going to create a new file called Course Discussions. Over here, we are going to import from React. We are going to import from React Native. And for this, we need view, text, text input, keyboard, flat list, and also image. After this, we need to import from components, and we need icon button, like that. Alright, and after this, we need to import from constants, and for this, we need colors, fonts, sizes, icons, and dummy data. Alright, cool. Next, we can then create the course discussions functional component. So constant course discussions arrow function, and we are going to return something. Don't forget, we need to export default course discussions, like that. Now, just to see if it works, I'm going to simply render a container view with a text component that renders course discussions, like that. Alright, I'm gonna save it. Next, in the course detail screen over here, I'm gonna scroll to the top, and same thing, we need to import from course discussions, right? Okay, so over here in the flat list, if the index equals to 2, instead of rendering a text component, we are going to render course discussions, like that. Save it. Perfect. Okay. Next, navigate back to the course discussions file. I'm gonna give the container view a bit of styling. So over here we have style, flex equals to 1, and the background color equals to colors.white. Okay, now within the discussions tab over here, within the discussions tab, we can manually divide it into 2 different sections. The first one we have here is the discussion itself, and after that we have the footer section over here. Alright, so I'm gonna get rid of the text component. Over here we have 2 different sections. The first one is what we call the discussion section, right? After that we have the footer section. Alright, so for the discussion section, we are going to render a new function called render discussions. And we are going to create this function over here, function render discussions, and we are going to return a container view with a bit of styling. Flex should be equals to 1. Alright, now in order to render a list of discussions over here, we are going to make use of the flat list component. So go back to your source code. Over here, we are going to render a flat list. So for the data, it's going to be dummy data dot course details dot discussions. Key extractor is going to be item followed by the arrow function. Over here, it's going to be discussions dash main dash item dot id. Next, we have content container style. The padding horizontal is going to be sizes dot padding, and padding bottom is going to be 70. For the render item prop, over here we have item index followed by the arrow function, and we are going to return, let's say, a text component that renders item.comment. I just want to see if it works. Alright, so save it first. Alright, cool, so it's indeed working. We just need to make sure our flat list looks something like this, where we have the main thread over here, main discussion thread, sorry, then followed by a list of replies. Okay. Alright, so in order to achieve that, we are going to create a new custom component called comment section over here. Alright, so constant comment section, and for this custom component, we will be taking in 3 props. We need comment item, which is basically the main thread over here, the comment item, followed by the comment option. Comment option is this section over here. We have comments, we have lights, and also we have the timeline right over here. Next, we have the replies. So for the replies, it will be the reply section over here. Okay. After this, we have the arrow function, and for this component, we are going to return a container view with a bit of styling. Flex direction equals to row, and margin top is going to be sizes.padding. Now within the comment section, for the main thread itself, we have the profile section over here, followed by the name, and lastly we have the comment itself. Alright, so we have the profile photo, followed by the name and comment. So for the profile, we are going to first render an image component where the source is going to be comment item dot profile. The style will be width 40, height 40, and border radius equals to 20. Now just to see if it works, I'm going to render the comment section over here. Alright, so we have the comment section like that, and we are going to pass the comment item over. We will be working on the comment option as well as the replies later on, like that. Alright, save it. Okay, cool, so we have the profile picture in place. Next, we'll be working on the name and comment section. So to do that, we need another container view with a bit of styling. Flex equals to 1, margin top equals to 3, and margin left equals to sizes.radius. Alright, and over here we have name, right? We have name and followed by the comment. So we have name and followed by comment. Alright, so for the name, we are going to first render a text component. Here it's going to be comment item dot name, right? Give it a bit of styling. The font should be equals to H3, like that. Save it. Okay, next for the command, we are going to render another text component, and here it's going to be comment item dot command, and for the style, it's going to be body 4, like that. Oops. Alright, save it. Perfect. Now after the comment section, next we will need to render the I would call it the command options, right? So we are going to render it directly like this, command option. Alright, so navigate back to the comment section over here. For the command option, it's going to be a container view like that with a bit of styling. Flex direction equals to row, margin top equals to sizes.radius, padding vertical equals to sizes.base, border top width equals to 1, border bottom width equals to 1 as well, and the border color equals to colors.grade20. Alright, now within this container view, we are going to render the command section, followed by the lights, and lastly we have the date. Alright, so over here we have the command section, light, and date. So for the command and light section over here, we are going to create another custom component called icon label button. Alright, so go back to your source code. In the components folder, we are going to create a new file called icon label button. Alright, so for this, same thing, we need to import from React, we need to import from React Native, we need image, we need text, and also we need touchable opacity. Alright, after that we need to import from constants, and for this we need fonts and also sizes. Alright, next we can then create the functional component. So constant icon label button equals to, and for this component we need 6 props, which are container style, icon, icon style, label, label style, and lastly we have the unpress. Alright, followed by the arrow function, and we are going to return something. Don't forget we need to export default icon label button, right? So for this, we are going to return the touchable opacity, right, with a bit of styling. Flex direction equals to row, align item equals to center, justify content equals to center as well, padding vertical equals to sizes.base, padding horizontal equals to sizes.radius, and we are going to inject the container style over here like that. Alright, the unpress is going to be unpress. Alright, save it. The next thing I would like to do is that I would like to know if the component is actually working. So to do that, navigate to the index.js file. Over here, I'm going to simply copy and paste it and change it to icon label button. And of course, we need to export it over here. Oops. Like that. Save it. Oops, a bit of typo. It should be icon label button like that. Okay, perfect. Now I'm going to close this. Head back to the course discussion over here. Oh, I need to import it. I need to import the icon label button over here like that. Alright, and for the command section, we are going to render icon label button, right? So just to see if it works, I'm going to set the container style. The width is going to be 100, the height is going to be, say, 40, and I would like to give it a bit of background color of red, like that, just to see if it works. Sweet. Alright, now that I'm here, I'm going to set the icon prop to icons.comment. The label should be equals to item.number of comments, like that. For the container style, the padding horizontal should be equals to 0. Padding vertical should be equals to 0 as well. Next, for the icon style, width will be 20, height will be 20, and the tint color is going to be colors.black. Alright, and lastly for the label style, margin left will be 3, color is going to be black, and the font will be H4, like that. Alright, save it. Now head back to the icon label button component. Over here, the first thing we are going to render is the icon, right? So we need the image component over here, where the source equals to icon, resize mode equals to contain, style will be width 20, height 20, and we are going to inject the icon style over here, like that. Save it. Okay, next we have the text component, right? So we need another text component that renders label. Alright, give it a bit of styling. Margin left is going to be sizes.base. The font should be equals to body tree. and I would like to sort of like inject the label style over here, like that. Alright, save it. Perfect, so we have the comment icon label button in place. Next we'll be working on the light button, right? So for this we need another icon label button where the icon equals to icons.height, label equals to item.number of lights. For the container style, well, you know what, I think I can get rid of the padding over here. Let me just remove these two properties. Alright, like that, save it. Now I can then get rid of the padding horizontal and padding vertical properties over here, right, like that. Save it. For this, I would like to give it a bit of margin left equals to sizes.radius, like that. Next, for the icon style, well, I think I can set the width and height in the icon label button over here as well. Oh, it's already 20, so for that I can get rid of these two properties, right? Save it. Should still behave the same. Alright, next for the label style, margin left is going to be 3, color is going to be black, and we are going to set the fonts to H4, like that. Alright, save it. Perfect. Okay. And lastly, we have the date. So for this, we will simply render a text component. Here it's going to be item.posted_on. Give it a bit of styling. Flex should be equals to 1. Text align should be equals to right. And the font should be equals to H4, like that. Alright, save it. Perfect. Okay. Alright, so we have completed the main thread or the main comment section. Next, we'll be working on the reply section. Okay, so head back to the comment section component over here. After the comment options, we are going to simply render the reply section or the replies component, right? Alright, so here it's going to be the reply section, right? Like that. Okay, save it. Alright, now head back to the comment section component over here. After the comment option, alright, we are going to supply the prop for replies, right? So for this, we are going to, for the reply section, we are going to render a flat list like this, okay, where the data is going to be item.replies, scroll enabled should be equals to false, key extractor, it's going to be item followed by the arrow function. Here it's going to be discussions dash replies dash item.id. After that, we are going to supply the render item prop. Okay, so for this, we have item index followed by the arrow function, and here we are going to render the same component, the same custom component that we have just created, which is the comment section. The reason being is because the main thread as well as the reply is actually very similar. Okay, so for this, the command item prop is going to be item. Let me try to save it for now and see if it works. Yep, it's indeed working. As you can see, I have the main thread over here and I have the replies over here. So after the command item, we are going to supply the command option. Okay, so for this, we are going to render a container view. Give it a bit of styling. Flex direction should be equals to row. Margin top should be equals to sizes.radius. Padding vertical should be equals to sizes.base. Border top width should be equals to 1. Border bottom width should be equals to 1 as well. And the border color is going to be gray 20, like that. Alright, save it. We are almost there. Now for the reply command option, we basically have 3 different things. We have the reply button over here, followed by the light button, and lastly we have the date over here. Okay, so for this, we have the reply, we have the light section, and also we have the date. So for the reply section, we are going to render icon label button, okay, where icon equals to icons.reply, label equals to reply. Now let me try to save it. Okay, so for the label style, margin left should be equals to 5 and color should be equals to black, and the font should be equals to H4, like that. Alright, save it. Perfect. Next, for the light, we are going to render icon label button as well, where the icon equals to icons.hurt off, like that. Label equals to light. For the container style, margin left is going to be sizes.radius. And lastly, for the label style, margin left will be 3, color is going to be black, and the font should be equals to H4, like that. Alright, save it. Perfect. And lastly, we have the date section, and for this we will simply render the text component. So over here we are going to render item dot posted on, give it a bit of styling. Flex should be equals to 1, text align will be equals to right, and the font will be equals to H4, like that. Alright, save it. Perfect. Okay. Now that we have already completed the discussion section, next we'll be working on the footer text input section over here. Alright, so scroll down. After the render discussion, for the footer, we are going to render a new function called render footer text input. Right, and we are going to create this function over here. So function render footer text input, and for this we are going to return a container view with a bit of styling. Flex direction should be equals to row. Position is going to be absolute. Bottom is going to be 0 for now. Left is going to be 0. Right is going to be 0. The height is going to be, let's say 80. Padding horizontal is going to be sizes.padding. Padding vertical is going to be sizes.radius. And for the background color is going to be gray 10. Alright, save it. Okay, now we have the text input container in place. Now over here within the container view, we are going to render the text input component. Right, so for the style, flex is going to be 1, margin right is going to be sizes.base, and the font is going to be body 3. Alright, so for the text input, it's going to be a multi-line. A placeholder, it's going to be type something. Placeholder text color is going to be colors.gray80. Alright, let me save it first. Okay. Now after the text input, we are going to render the send button over here. Alright, so after the text input, we are going to render the icon button component. So over here, the icon is going to be icons.send. Icon style is going to be height 25, width 25, and the tint color should be colors.primary. Alright, now save it. Okay, we are almost there. We have the discussion section in place. We have the footer text input section in place. All we need to do now is to fix a couple of issues whenever the keyboard is shown. Alright, so whenever the keyboard is shown, the text input will be hidden behind the scene, behind the keyboard. Right, so in order to solve this issue, we need a new state over here. Right, so constant footer position, set footer position equals to react.useState 0, like that. Alright, and over here we need to make use of the use effect hook. Alright, here it's going to be an empty array. We need to make use of the use effect hook to listen to the keyboard, right? So over here, constant show subscription equals to keyboard.addListener. Keyboard will show, like that. Here we have event followed by the arrow function, and whenever the keyboard is shown, I would like to set the footer position to e.endCoordinates.height, which means I would like to set the footer position, which is basically this footer container, to be at the height of the keyboard over here. Okay, next we need another subscription, which is what we call the height subscription. It goes to keyboard.addListener. Keyboard will height over here, same thing. And whenever the keyboard is hidden, I would like to set the footer position to 0. Alright, don't forget we need to remove the subscription over here. Return, like that, show subscription.remove, and hide subscription.remove as well. Alright, now that we have already set up the footer position accordingly, all we need to do now is to tag the footer position state and replace it over here. Instead of hardcoding it to 0, I'm going to set it to footer position. Save it. Now, whenever the keyboard is shown, the footer text input container will be repositioned to be above the keyboard, just like this. Perfect. Next, I would like to do something to the text input height as well. I want it to be sort of like, you know, dynamic. Whenever I type in more, you know, what do you call the comments, right? Whenever I type in more comments, I would like the text input height to grow dynamically as well. So to do that, we need another state over here. Right, so constant footer height set footer height equals to react.useState, and here the initial value is going to be 60. Next, I would like to replace the the text input height over here, the text input container height to footer height, like that. Okay, alright, so for the text input component, for the onContent size change prop, which means whenever the content of the text input changes, whenever the size of the content of the text input changes, we are going to tag the event followed by the arrow function. Over here, we are going to get the height. So constant height equals to event.native event.content size.height. We are going to get the height of the content, right? And over here, if the height is less than or equals to 60, we are going to set the footer height to 60. Else, if the height is more than 60 and the height is less than or equals to 100, then we are going to set the footer height to height, like that. Else, if the height is more than 100, then we are going to set the footer height to 100, like that. Alright, save it. Now whenever I type something over here, and if it's a multi-line like that, you'll notice that the text input will actually increase in height dynamically, right? Up to a certain point, which is exactly what we want. We just need to fix some UI issues over here. So to work on this, I will simply wrap the icon button within a container view, like that. Give it a bit of styling. Align item should be equals to center. Justify content should be equals to center as well. Alright, save it. Perfect. Okay, now we are almost there. All we need to do now is to hide the keyboard. We need to hide the keyboard whenever the user navigates to the other tabs like this. See? So in order to resolve this issue, we need to head back to the course detail screen, navigate to the tabs component, which is over here, right? So whenever I click on any of these tabs, I would like to dismiss the keyboard. So I can do that by making use of the keyboard component dot dismiss, like that. Save it. Now whenever I click on any of these other tabs, I should be able to hide the keyboard, like that. Sweet. Alright guys, and there you have it. We have finally completed the third and final part of this beautiful online learning app. The full source code for this project is available on shop.lcrn.com. shop.byprogrammers.com, and I have included the link in the description below. Now we won't be able to make a video to cover all the other remaining screens as we need to move on to the next project, but as a token of appreciation from us, if you were to get the source code from shop.byprogrammers.com, you will be able to get the source code for the subsequent releases for this project entirely for free without any additional charges. In addition to that, I would also like to take this opportunity to wish all of you a happy, healthy, and prosperous new year. Thanks for watching, guys. So if you liked the video, we'll be more than happy if you can give it a thumbs up, comment, share it to your friends, and also don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. I will see you guys in the next video. Happy coding. Peace.